This episode of the Blue Collar Real Estate Podcast brought to you by Stacy Mayo and the Scott Miller team at Ruoff Mortgage. Whether you're buying new or refinancing, Ruoff has a solution for you. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Blue Collar Real Estate. I'm your host, Greg Mayo. Ryan will be along here in a few minutes. Well, not along here, but he's out in California researching some solar products and some different things we're going to be working on real soon. I want to welcome you. This is our first live episode. We're live at 5. And I also want to tell you, happy Juneteenth. I think with all the division and craziness in the country, at least everybody can agree on the importance of this date. Back in 1865, right? The end of slavery. We can all agree that's a good thing, I hope. Anyway, but this is not a political show, and therefore we won't get political. What I do want to talk to you about today is affordable housing. That's going to vary what that means, between Indianapolis and Central Indiana, where we shoot this, and say Malibu, Southern California, or Chicago proper. But affordable housing is a big thing for us. Both me as a realtor and Naptown Homes. It's important because in my mind, and the way I've sort of estimated this is if a person or a couple or whatever, if they get up, they go to work, they work hard, they maintain their credit, right? They should be able to buy a home, and they should be able to buy a safe and affordable home. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about this episode. We're going to talk about affordable housing, what that kind of looks like, why it matters. And we're even going to go over some options, some house plans that if you choose to build an affordable house and you want to watch that budget, some house plans that would make that work. So that's going to be the crux of what we're doing. I keep waiting for the camera to change. It's not, so I'm just going to keep looking here. Oh, now it changed. Hey, now I'm back over here. Again, folks, we're live, which means all the foibles and flub-ups that our esteemed producer Jason normally fixes are going to be right there with you the entire way. So I'm hoping there's a 3-second delay. I don't intend to have a slash moment from the VMAs back in the 90s. You older people understand that. Jason gets it. That's the key. Anyway, with affordable housing, one thing that we kind of need to look at, and I'll just use the example of the community I live in. In my community, to build a new home, there are square foot requirements, and the square footage requirements are fairly large. And the footprint of the house, right? It makes building some of the houses that we're going to show and talk about here in a little bit impossible. Literally, you can't get a permit to build those houses. Now, land cost and some of those things we'll get into when Ryan jumps on here in a minute, but just those restrictions. Now, the community I live in, there are 20 or so thousand warehouse and distribution center jobs, and a lot of those people come in from the city to work in my community at these warehouses and distribution centers. That having those businesses in my community benefit the entire community. I think personally, it's a no bueno that the people that work at those distribution centers, the guys and gals that are making $15-16 an hour, working their tails off every day, that they can't afford to live in the community that their job is in and have their kids benefit from our schools and those kind of things. Now, again, some of that comes down to land cost, and again, we'll get into that in a few minutes, but the idea that we could lift those restrictions, that we could find land to put a development in, and I'm not talking about, okay, and I got to say this, there are a lot of programs out there that help people get into houses, and some of them, although they're well-intentioned and they have the right heart about it, they are trying to shoehorn people into homes that they can't afford, right? And so there's grants and stuff available that actually do more harm than good. Now, there are grants out there and programs that do wonderful, but we're not talking about those. What I'm talking about is the ability to put a new home, albeit a small home, but a starter home, on a lot in an area you want to be, where it's going to appreciate, where you're going to feel safe with your kids out in the street playing. Well, not the street. Well, maybe. We used to play in the street, and I'm fine. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And again, land costs are going to vary. In the city of Indianapolis and downtown, there are lots I can pick up for $5,000. there are not lots like that in Plainfield or Brownsburg or Carmel or whatever. So that will play a role in it. But when we look at that and we look at the cost variance with land, we also need to look at how much am I going to pay to rent if I'm in a Plainfield or a Brownsburg or Westfield or whatever. What is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment going to cost me to rent? Almost all the time, and there are metrics that companies that manage rental communities and apartment complexes go with, and they take the average income in the area and they base what they charge for rent off of that income. Now that's an oversimplification, but basically that's the crux of it. So if you can afford to rent a house there, hey, there's Ryan.
What is going on, Greg? Coming to you live from sunny Malibu, California today.
I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. Not that I'm not appreciative of my time here in the studio with Jason, but you got it going on, dog.
I'm thankful. We're out here learning some stuff about solar, the renewable energy stuff we've been talking about on the show for the last several weeks. So it's super excited. I'm sure we'll be talking about more about that, I should say, in coming weeks. So bring me up to speed, Greg. I apologize that I'm running a few minutes late for everybody here, but definitely want to kind of talk about the affordable housing that I know you started the conversation on.
Yeah, and really, I've just kind of been sharing with people my thoughts on affordable housing as far as the importance of it and how that might mean something different in different communities. And right before you popped on, we were talking about how the rent in a community, if you're paying rent in a given area, then that probably reflects what you could afford in a house.
Yeah. Yep. I would totally say that's fair because, in so many areas, especially over the last 6-7 years, as the economy has really, really improved, as things have moved forward, as, prior to COVID, unemployment numbers were at all-time lows, and there was a lot of consumer confidence, right? And so what came with that was a lot of rising prices. We saw interest rates continue to go down, and so we had this perfect pool of, a storm where everything is just going really, really well, and house values were going up, especially in central Indiana where you and I are at, home values are going up in some cases like 9 to 12% a year. So it's insane what's been happening with home values. And along with that, rent has been going up. You and I were talking just before the show, Greg, and, right now in most areas, where you've got, pretty decent schools, and I'm going to use Brownsburg as an example. And, for those, listening across the country, Brownsburg is a suburb of Indianapolis. It's known for a lot of good schools, but a 1,500 square foot home in Brownsburg is going to cost you right now around $1,400 to $1,500 a month to rent.
Wow.
Right. I mean, that's insane. And when you take a look at, I'm sure if you talk to Stacey Mayo at Ruoff Mortgage, she can show you how $1,500 equates to literally almost a $300,000 mortgage payment. And I think a lot of people maybe just don't think they can afford to buy a house, or maybe they don't think they can buy a house for a variety of reasons, all of which we've covered in, past episodes. But yeah, I think a lot of it starts with, the education and understanding of what does actually go into home ownership. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to delve into that a little more deeply in another episode because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I know you're aware of this, and we've touched on it before. I've talked to people recently who said, well, I don't think I can buy a house yet because don't I have to have like 20% down? The answer is a hard no, and we'll get into that later. One thing, here's kind of where I want to jump off now that we're together. Now that we're together. No? Old Dean Martin song? Never mind. Anyway.
I just don't know that one. Sorry.
Dino's my favorite. The average...
Not Kicking the Head from Dean Martin, I do know.
Oh, that's probably his best ever.
It's fantastic.
That and The Street Where You Live. But anyway, hey, we're live. That's weird. Look at me just drifting off. So the average household income in Indiana, and we'll use central Indiana by large today because that's where we live, is about $61,900.
Yep.
Now, that's within a few $100s of the national average for household income. Okay. In central Indiana, the average home price is around $200K. You, Mr. Statistics, probably have the exact number.
It's north of 200 at this point, right around 212, if I'm not mistaken, as of the date of this filming. So, yeah.
Okay, so back to what you were talking about earlier. On a 30-year note with an average credit score, given where interest rates are now, you could buy a $200,000 home for what? $1,000 a month? $1,100 a month?
Well, let's take that same $212,000 that we just talked about, and taking into consideration where interest rates are today. And today being middle of June 2020, and rates are still at amazing historic lows. Right now I saw on Stacy and Scott Miller's rate sheet the other day that right now a 30-year fixed interest rate. And I apologize, there's a motorcycle gang going behind me on the road right now. But I don't know if it's a gang, but I'm going to pretend it is. But but nevertheless, it's right around 3.25%. So 3.25%, for a 30-year fixed rate. And at 212,000, using a 5% down, pretty normal conventional loan, you're looking at a principal and interest, taxes, insurance, all in on this, just north of $1,250 a month.
Wow.
And so think about that. So to rent that same house, you're automatically going to be spending just north of $1,400 to $1,500 a month. So you're automatically saving $200 a month plus, right off the get, buying the same house versus renting it. And certainly there's costs of ownership that go along with that, that you don't have when paying rent. But there's also benefits that come with home ownership, such as appreciation, such as built-in equity, et cetera.
And I appreciate you mentioning that. Anyway, wow, there must be a delay between here and Malibu, Jason, because I don't feel like that went through at all. So we're talking about the average home price being $212,000. But I pulled up some numbers just for you, Ryan. And
appreciate that.
511, 2 days ago when I pulled this up, 511 new homes on the market in Marion County and what we call in central Indiana the Donut County, so the counties that touch Marion County. Some would call it the Indy metropolitan area. Of those 511 homes, right. So of those 511 homes, to me, an affordable house for a $14 or $15 an hour full-time worker is under $150,000. So of those 511 homes, Ryan, how many of them on the market today are under $150,000?
I would say the numbers are pretty thin, just simply knowing that the average home, is just north of $200,000 now. And so when it's south of $150,000 now, well, the payment on that is going to be around $900 a month if you were to buy it. I think the challenge is that you're probably only going to find a handful of homes out of 500 that, are in that price range. What's the actual number, Greg?
One.
That's a pretty small amount out of 511. So you're saying there's a chance, is what you're putting out there.
There's a slim chance. So under $200,000 on the market today.
Okay, and so this is at that market average, right?
I'm sorry, and I didn't preface. This is where if we weren't live, Jason could go back and fix this. But I'm talking new homes.
Okay, so we're talking brand new homes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
In the marketplace. Okay.
So there's one brand new home under $150,000. Under $200,000 out of the 511 brand new homes on the market right now, how many do you think there are under $200K?
I'd say that's even tough because you've really got to look to find anything under 200,000 for brand new homes. I'm going to say less than 10.
And you'd be right. If I was Carl Rugen, anybody Princess Bride fans, the six-fingered man, I'd be good because there's six homes on the market, brand new homes for under $200,000. Now, one more little thing in my trivia game, and then you can riff here. What do you think the average sale price is right now, central Indiana, of the 511 brand new homes on the market today? What do you think the average sale price is right now?
For brand new home, I'm going to say it's well north of $3. I'm going to say north of 350 actually, but I'm going to let you again lead the way. You did all the pivotal research for this episode. So what do you got?
And again,
close.
You would be right. The average sale price right now is $418,768.
And again, those are for brand new homes that have hit the market in, the metro Indianapolis area. So, Marion County and the surrounding touching counties. So that's a lot of opportunities. That's a lot of homes. But out of 511 for only 7 of them to be under $200,000, that's insane. Yeah, that's absolutely insane. And, I think one of the things, and kind of to segue a little bit, Greg, and I was blown away by this. This absolutely blew me away. But when you were talking about, prior to the show, how when people, especially going back to like the baby boomer generation, right? Homes built in the 50s, 60s, et cetera, the average home size was so much smaller. And there's a statistic, I know you're going to share her in a minute, but this probably blew me away more than anything else, because I think as people, we're living so much differently now. We're accumulating so much more stuff, and consequently the home size that, the average home size has, increased exponentially. So let's kind of dive into that.
Yeah, actually, Jason, can you pull up that first slide there? Okay, this is the average home size from 1950, which was 983 square feet, to 6 years ago. The average home size almost tripled to 2,675 square feet.
That's nuts. That probably more than any real estate statistic I've seen, and I'm a statistics guy, just absolutely blew me away at what does, kind of that entry level home mean to somebody that's considering getting into home ownership, or considering if, home ownership's right for them. So that means that the average home is literally, like you said, triple the size of what it was just going back 50, 60 years. So that's nuts.
And
that's
so
nuts to me.
If you're trying to buy a new home for a starter home, which traditionally, especially in the post-World War II, when that boom started, your starter home, or your first home you bought, was your starter home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back then, or today, if your starter home's almost 3,000 square feet and an average price for a new one is $418,000, if you're just out of college, or let me give you an example. If your name's Tommy and you work on the dock, but the union's been on strike and you're down on your luck, man, it's tough. But Gina, she works a diner all day. No, okay. Ryan looks disgusted with me right now.
That is my favorite song of all time. Bon Jovi right there. Oh man, that was fantastic. That was well done, Greg.
But I'll use the example of a guy that works in freight, works hard every day, works 40 hours a week, and let's just say his wife works as a waitress. Now, this was me and my wife 15 years ago. If we're those people today, and I want to build a new house, and I'm starting off with my family, and I'm, say, 25 or 30 years old, how am I going to go buy a $418,000 house?
That's going to be a little bit tougher, but, but I think there's a few things to maybe take into consideration with that. And that is, if I'm going to build a brand new house, again, we're talking about brand new homes here, certainly you can buy other homes, but I can certainly attest as well that if we were to take those same brand new home numbers that you just shared and look at the resale market compared to those, there's going to be the same direct correlation in, homes under $150,000 and under $200,000, because it's just an insane market that we continue to deal with, much to my surprise, as we're almost now 3 months through COVID right now. I mean, it just continues to still be very, very strong in many, many parts of the country right now. So, so with all of that being considered, I think it can be done, though. It's taking a look at, where am I allocating those funds? What do I actually need a home to do for me? A lot of times, our clients, Greg, they certainly want a separate bedroom for all of their kids that are maybe 1 year old and 3 years old, perhaps. They want everybody to have their separate rooms, which I certainly appreciate, but that wasn't the way we lived in 1950 either. I certainly shared a bedroom with my son, or not my son, but, my brother, for many years, growing up. And I don't think I was the exception in that situation. So I think how we look at and how we live in homes has certainly changed. But if you're willing to, maybe put that extra bedroom aside, you can certainly still find brand new home options. And that's a big, big part of, both, I know, your business and my business as well. It's just showing that to some people and helping them, see that this is a viable option, but maybe you have to give and take in certain areas.
Absolutely. And we're going to pull up a plan of a 1950s home in a minute, but just to talk a little bit about income disparity, because we did talk about income and the cost of a new home. Today, in the 1950s, the average household income was $2,990 annually.
It's a little different.
It's just a little bit different. The average cost to build a new home back then was $7,400.
Right.
And we can do the averages and stuff, but we'll get into that some other. I just want to throw that out there as a comparative as we're looking at stuff, because this home we're getting ready to show right now, if I had a magic wand.
There he goes.
We've talked about this when we did the episode on architectural styles. It's a post-World War II bungalow. Yep. It literally could not be more simple.
Now it's a super simple plan, and one of the shows that I know that we'll do, moving forward, we're actually redoing a house exactly like this right now for one of our clients, Greg.
Yep.
The house that was built in 1958, and it had baseboard heating, it had a window AC unit that was stolen, by the way, this week, and we are looking for you. But I digress. I digress. But nevertheless, we're redoing this house. But this was very much the exact same, almost to a T, the same plan as what this floor plan is. But that was how a lot of people lived back then, and that certainly is still. That house still exists. We're making this one look awesome. I'm excited to share it with everybody on a future episode here. But it's certainly very, very different than if you walk into a new home builder today and the minimum square footage requirement is 1,500 square foot in a lot of areas. And so you've got 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathroom plans at a minimum now. So almost double what we're looking at here.
And maybe that's what we're doing, or maybe that's the aim, is to help people understand, you and I both know a lot of first-time home buyers, they think they got to get everything they want in their first house because they're going to be there forever. And the data does not bear that out. They're there 3 to 5 years, right?
It just doesn't. And I'm going to share a personal statistic with you on that. But in the last 3 years of people that I have helped either buy a brand new home or a resale home, and working with first-time home buyers is a big, big part of my business, and it always will be. I really enjoy that part of it. The educational side of it, and helping maybe somebody avoid a mistake that I made as a first-time home buyer and sharing those stories with them. Yet at the same time, when you're looking at buying a brand new home, you just really have to understand what are your options? What's that really mean to you? But I truly think it is, as opposed to paying rent, a very good fit for a lot of people. And anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought there, Greg. I apologize, but I'm just excited for a lot of first-time homebuyers right now because we were talking about the time that they are living in there, and over the last 3 years, we have actually helped from people that have bought homes that have turned around and resold them within a 3-year period. It's been 36 people that we've helped in the last 3 years that turned around and had to resell for a variety of reasons that actually ended up making money. We didn't help any of those people, and not one of them lost money on their house, which I'm thankful for. And there's a lot of factors that isn't just because I'm an awesome real estate agent, although I like to think I'm decent.
Oh, you're pretty awesome.
But ultimately the market was improving. But real estate is a very viable economic investment for people that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. Or, everybody's taught put money in your 401k. Well, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But real estate can be an equal or greater investment if you understand how to use it as such. So,
yeah, absolutely. And to me, and just a quick anecdote. So I was at Home Depot, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and I was talking to this guy. He was probably in his mid 60s. That was working there, and over going in there a lot. I was doing a rehab project right by there. Anyway, this guy was telling me he had been an insurance adjuster, and when the market crashed in 2009, he lost almost $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Every dime he had invested for his retirement and future. Look, it looks like I'm hitting you. Hey.
It's not very nice.
Every dime he had in his retirement set aside for his future was gone. And so now he was relying on working part-time at Home Depot. Yes, houses did go down in value in 2009 and 10, but land is the one thing they're not making any more of, right?
That's what they say.
Until we colonize the moon, but that won't be in my lifetime. So real estate to me is the most sound investment you can make, if it's just your own home or if it's in somebody else's home. And the idea here is that you build a home or buy a home and you stay in it a few years and you make some money and you roll that into the next one. What if I told you, Ryan, that I could build you a home, in which case, in such a situation that me as the agent, me as the builder, made profit. I'm not talking about freebies here. If I could build houses for free all day, I would, but I can't. I have selfish people living in my household that like to eat. What if I told you, though, I could build you a house, now given land cost, right, depending on where the lot is, and sell it to you for $150,000 or a little less and make a profit? What would you say to that?
I'd say there would be a lot of people that would be interested in buying that house right now.
So I thought that might be the case, and I've got a couple options that I want to share with people. The first one, this is such a cute house. I love it because it's modern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a small house. It's 680 some odd square feet. Now, as we look at the floor plan, which is the next slide, So it's very simple, right? You got a main great room up front. You've got a single full bath and then 2 bedrooms in the back. And then you can see the stairs are optional if you want to have a basement. Obviously, the basement's going to cost more. But that little house, 686 square feet, it is not unlike the post-World War II bungalows we were just talking about. Am I right?
Correct. No, I see a lot of similarities.
And this house, again, depending on the lot, we could get built and ready to move in. And I'm not talking with cheap junk finishes. I'm talking about affordable finishes, but a well put together home. And you could buy that home for well under $150,000.
So I think that's something that a lot of people would be very interested in learning more about, Greg, is there's some place that people could go to get more information on that, or should they reach out to you on that? Because I genuinely think that, again, when we, simply present the information of what it takes to buy a home, help people overcome maybe some of the challenges or roadblocks that exist that maybe they think why they couldn't buy a home, what should somebody do next? What would be that next step as far as educating themselves as to if this is right for them? And if it is, how do they figure out, how do I build one of these homes?
Well, one of the first steps is talk to a builder or a realtor or both. You could talk to both in one conversation.
For those watching on YouTube, that was just a nice selfish plug right there. So.
And you could contact me or you. But you also want to talk to a lender because a construction loan package is a little bit different than just buying a house. It's not complicated and it's not hard, but it's just a little bit different. So get your ducks in a row. Figure out what you're going to build.
That's it. I think the opportunities exist. And, again, one of the goals of this show is to talk about what is affordable housing, kind of explain that and really present some ideas and options to people that maybe you've not yet considered. And, really just taking a look at what does it take to own a home and understanding how can you use real estate as a vehicle, to fund your, future investments, et cetera, and also be a great place to, raise your family, create memories, and, it's just an awesome place to do what you do. So, Greg, anything we haven't discussed today that would be important to add to put a cherry on top of this one?
Oh, wait. We have another house to look at.
We do. Tell me about that one.
Look at this. Can you see that, Ryan?
I do like this. Being in California, I love the contemporary look of this house. This is really cool. So for people that are not watching this on YouTube, go over to YouTube, check this episode out. I love this floor plan and I love this design.
This is so sexy with the 2 porches and Adam, who people that have watched previous episodes will know is the ICF builder and a friend of mine. He and I were talking about this and he's into this house. It's a modern build. Now, part of building affordable is building smart, right? Notice we don't have weird bump outs, things that are going to make the foundation costs go through the roof. Mm-hmm. Wait, that was kind of funny.
Touch on that real quick, Greg, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't necessarily always take into consideration. One of the ways that you can keep the cost down is to keep it very simple in design, correct?
Correct. And so let's talk about the foundation. And if Jason will pull up that first floor plan, the next pic. Yeah, okay. If you look at this, we have just a big square. Mm-hmm. If, let's say this porch down here was a bump out in part of the living space. Now the excavator and the person doing the foundation work, whether it's a poured wall, concrete wall foundation or block, now they've got extra work to do. There's extra turns. There's extra ways that has to be laced together. It all adds to the cost, and it adds to the cost quickly, even a small bump out, which is why when you see a lot of post-World War II bungalows, they have that dining area with like a built-in bench seat, but the foundation isn't bumped out. It's cantilevered out over the yard, right?
Yep.
It saves on cost of building. Another thing that will save on cost is materials. When you look at the square footage on the outside, for example, am I even where I'm not going to waste a bunch of sheets of plywood? Is it $12 a pop? Right. That adds up, right?
Right. So kind of what Greg's talking about there is, do you have a lot of windows? Do you have a lot of, starts and stops where you're installing siding, et cetera? Because all of that stuff creates additional cost every single time you have to cut a piece of material. You have waste taken, into consideration there. And so the more simple you can keep the design, the more simple and affordable you can keep the cost by a big stretch.
Exactly right. In this floor plan, that's not a floor plan, that's you. That's so awesome. I love that. So that's the main floor, and we've got a full bath down here. Now, when Adam looked at this, he changed that to a half bath, which I thought was brilliant. But again, all your common living space, and then upstairs, we've got 2 full bedrooms. Next slide, please.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
Oh, I didn't know if he heard me. We got 2 full bedrooms. We got a nice overhang over the family room, which adds volume to the space. My point is, and the way Adam redrew this is both upstairs bedrooms have their own full bath, and then there's a half bath downstairs, which I thought was brilliant.
I agree.
My point is, again, depending on the cost of your lot, I can build you this house and feel like I made a profit, and I can sell it to you and feel like I made a profit, and you can buy it for $150,000.
That's not bad. That's not bad. So if you want to reach out to Greg, you want to get a copy of these floor plans, give him a call, shoot him a text, send him an email. Greg, how do people connect with you on this?
Carrier pigeon's my preferred method. But if
that is
not,
good. You've got them well trained at this point.
Yeah, you can email me at gregory.mayo@exprealty.com. You can Facebook me or Instagram. I'm still kind of learning how to do the Instagram message thing. I just found like 7 old messages from last year. I'm like, oh, where did that come from? But, and look, I'm not the only guy that can do this, right? To me, it's about the concept. It's about, would I love to do an entire neighborhood of these houses, those 2 different floor plans? Absolutely, I would. Would I love to take 90 acres somewhere around the city and put 300 homes on it where people can buy their own home and have that feeling and that pride in home ownership and the income potential down the road, right, for appreciative value? To me, it's just something that needs to be done. And if you can do it, and if you can do it in a way that's green, and if we can kind of turn that mentality of my first home for me, my significant other, and say our 1-year-old kid and our basset hound needs to be 3,000 square feet. If we can turn that mentality to, no, you know what, we just need to start here, then I think that solves part of the inventory problem too, because we're creating inventory that people can buy, and these houses go up quick. That's what I got for you.
That would be helpful. That would be helpful. So reach out to Greg, give him a call, shoot him a text, send him an email, reach out to us in any way, and we'd love the opportunity to help anybody out. So we'd love to hear from you. That's why we do this show, is to continue to provide information that kind of pulls the curtain back on all things real estate and things that go into it. So for Greg Mayo, I'm Ryan Herget, and we definitely appreciate everybody's time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.